So the idea of Grounding Connections has been brewing for kind of a long time, but it took me a long time to put together what it would actually look like. So when I actually put together the idea in the format that it kind of is now, that was sort of the end of May, and then launched it at the end of June. At the end of June. So it's a quick turnaround. I'm a bit of like, whenever I get my head into something, I'm like, go, go, go. So
This
yeah, it's
year?
been going for just over 5 months now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Same as me. I started my club home in March of this year.
Okay. So yeah, pretty similar time frame. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, for someone who doesn't know what grounded connection is, how do you describe it?
So basically, it's a way for you to meet a group of women for adventures in the outdoors. So it's each month you get connected with a group of 3 to 5 women, and we find out like what kind of personality you have, what like things you like to do in the outdoors, what your feral score is as well. So some people will be like super outdoorsy and just want to go like frolic in the hills. And some people are like, I kind of just want to have a brew outside. Like there's a big scope.
Hmm.
So yeah, we kind of match people based on loads of different parameters, and then we give everyone an activity to do with their group, and like a rough location to do it as well. So we take a lot of things into account, and then everyone goes off and has their adventure. And I'm sure you'll have found this too, but it's like the most wholesome thing ever when you get sent a picture of like meetups that are just
Mm.
happening and you weren't even aware, and you're like, there's a whole group of people in the sauna and they were just like chatting away, and it's just like, oh, it's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah. No, I feel that whenever people meet up outside of the meetups, like they
Yeah.
exchange their contacts and they make friends and hang out after, that's like, oh yeah, that's such
It's
a
the
great
best
feeling.
thing. I got a text actually last night that made me so happy. It was like a group, well, a load of groups had come together and they've organized like a little Christmas meetup together. And I was just like, and they invited me along, and I was like, I didn't even know this was happening. And that is like the most beautiful message ever to get. And I'm really sad that I can't go, or else I'd be like, but yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Okay, so targeted for women in nature,
Mhm.
like I like that it's specific in that sense. And I think clubs need that specificity for the who and the what and the why. Is that
I think so.
how did you get the first groups going? Because you need a minimum amount of people to be able to pair people up together.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, right? Is like making sure your base is enough and is like always evolving each month as well. Cause it's like all well and good you having a good base, but if you don't have new people coming, then like you've got a problem. Like for the beginning, I was quite rigorous on my like launch process. So I did like a really concentrated launch period. So I worked really, really hard on like how to kind of strategically plan that out and like get people excited. I really wanted people to also like have this feeling that they're really part of creating it, because
Hmm.
like the reason that I created it in the first place was because it was something that I just really wanted myself, and I couldn't find. Like it was just something I really wanted. But that's not to say that I know the right way to build it, if that makes sense. So
Still
I
figuring it
kind
out.
of, yeah, 100% still figuring it out right now. And like in the beginning, it was very much like I have this idea, and I was kind of like not afraid to come outward with this angle of like, I have this idea that I want to create. This is kind of what I see it being, but I would love for you guys to like have input on how this actually works. And that I think worked quite well. And it's still to an extent like what we're doing now. But yeah, I think that kind of framework made people feel quite involved, and they very much were like they helped to create it. And I think that helps pull more people in as well. But yeah, I was just the marketing was just like hell to leather. So that also helped.
A lot
So
of
yeah, that's
content,
kind
I'm
of the
guessing.
process. A lot of content, a lot of just like blasting like Facebook groups and trial reels and like all kinds of things to get things going. Yeah. And like I've gone out and done all sorts of things. I stick QR codes up on the hills on trailheads and like put postcards out and like all sorts of things just to try and get the word out in like any way I can. So yeah, it's very much, I think it has to be a passion project for that reason, because it takes quite a lot to get it off the ground.
Yeah. No, it reminds me of when I was a content creator, like the beginning days where you just have to hustle and you have to I was emailing journalists to get my videos out and like trying to get articles written about my videos. And
Okay.
it feels like building a club is similar to that in terms of its entrepreneurial journey. And the
Mhm.
beginning is probably the hardest, like to get the people in the first batch, like in the first meetup, for example. That's something
Yeah.
for my club when we've opened in 10 different cities and we have leaders lead the meetups in each city,
Okay.
and getting the first meetup to reach like a critical mass is the hardest part. And sometimes the cities will have like 2 or 3 people show up. So it's still small. But if we can get like a lot of people to show up to the first meetup, I think that really sets it up for success.
Yeah, because then you've got proof of concept, right? So people are like, okay, like maybe I don't want to be the first one to take the step, but I can see it's happening, so I'm happy to join. Yeah, that's interesting that you've got leaders. How does that work?
All volunteers. So the way that it worked is I set up the Paris community. So my club is for third culture kids. That's our thing. And the Paris community was working, and I was building like an online community as well, like through content.
Okay.
And I wanted to capture people who weren't in Paris to still be able to do something with them in the future. And through my newsletter, the newsletter is a big part of my club. Do you use a newsletter frequently?
Yeah, I do a lot of like email marketing, yeah, and like email kind
Yeah.
of contact with people. Yeah.
I think that's really valuable. And especially as a content creator, realizing like how a follower has just lost its value in terms of how much control we have
Mhm.
over it. Email feels very valuable in that sense. I just sent out emails saying, "Hey, does anyone want to open home in their city? I'll teach you how to do it." And we had people volunteer.
Oh,
And
amazing.
it's been really cool how people feel really driven by the mission, and I've also stressed like you, like the community element of it, of like we're building this together. Yeah. Which I think gets people, it adds value because we're learning from the community is providing value to the community, not just from me as the leader.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that gives it a
that's
nicer
how we get
dynamic
started.
as well. Because when people look to you as a leader, it can become a bit like it's my club, which is never the feeling that I think you want to give off. It's always like this is our thing that we're like curating together, which I think is really nice as well. Yeah, it's cool that you've managed to get the leaders to work. So is that quite a lot of, is there a lot of go between for you and them? Or like how does that work?
So the way it's evolving, and
Yeah.
I did another theme of today. I did another round where like, oh, we're opening new applications, and I didn't get many at all. So now I'm like
Uh-huh.
reevaluating how I want that to look. But the way that it looked is that I trained them over like 3 or 4 Zoom meetings, and then they kind of run independently. We have a group chat, and we do a monthly call, like a check-in, where leaders can kind of like support each other, share any issues that are happening. But
Uh-huh.
for me, what's going to be really important moving forward is that it's very hands off from my end.
Yeah.
I was thinking originally like to get to 100 cities, but now even with 10 cities, I'm like, ooh, that's, I don't even want to think about how much that would be to manage.
Yeah, that's what my exact thoughts were. Whenever you said leaders, I was like, I don't know if I could handle that, but it sounds like a great idea. Because just trying to make things scalable is a really hard part, I'm finding.
What does that look like for you? How many meetups are you doing, and how many people do you have in your community?
So I think ours are working in like quite different ways, which is interesting. So the way that mine basically works is that so this month we had 159 groups or something like that. And so we had quite a lot of groups, and we very much run with the forefront of like, this is very self propelled. And so we put a lot of things in place for our members before they join to make sure that they're very like self motivated, because otherwise, it wouldn't work. So basically, we put people into groups, we give them as much support as we can in the way of like giving them a location, giving them like the things they have in common, an activity, all of that stuff. But then it's over to them to organize it amongst the group. But obviously, well, not obviously, because we're just talking for the first time, but they're all paid members. So, like, and they've all come to this because they want to meet people. So, we put a lot of friction in the process, which marketing wise kind of makes no sense. But, like, because of what we want as the end product, like, we need that friction for people to actually push through and become a member kind of thing, and then actually meet up at the end. So, one of the key things that we're kind of facing at the moment is that kind of getting that process to really work of people. Like there's some people who just are silent within groups and stuff like that. So like that's the main thing that we're kind of facing, because in the beginning, whenever it was smaller and we had like 30, 40 groups a month, I had like an assistant who would be in each of the groups and would like push things forwards. But whenever you've got like 160 this month and however many, going forwards, it's not massively scalable. So that's kind of the main issue we're facing. But we're about to launch an app basically for Grounded Connections, which will then automate a lot of the process. But the app building itself is a whole other nightmare. So yeah, but that is like
Yeah.
the scalable side of it, is bringing in that kind of like automation and more like processes inbuilt at the moment. Yeah.
How do you connect them currently?
They connect over email and then WhatsApp at the moment.
Cool. So you send out an email where it's like CC'd 4 to 6 people, and then it's like figure it out on your own, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. So we kind of put everyone into their email and we say, like, this is how to create the WhatsApp group. This is like whereabouts to meet, give them an introduction to each other. And then, yeah, they go from there and create the groups. And obviously, like, there's back and forth. I have like an assistant that deals with all of that stuff and gives the extra support. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. And yeah, that's where the difficulties are, is like making sure those groups go. I say most of them are pretty self-propelled because there's a lot of people who are like really keen and really excited, but then there are some people who sit silently. So it's like there's a bit of a mix. Yeah.
I think what you were saying about the friction is so important. And I think that can probably looks like in 2 ways. Of one is the application, and two is the paid element. Right
Mhm.
now for my club, we have a lengthy application. It's all automated, so I'm not like reviewing applications, but there's steps to fill it out. But it's a free club.
Okay.
This step, this this latest phase of my club has been figuring out how to monetize it moving forward. And I'm like tinkering
Yeah.
with different ideas. But I think the element of it being paid really adds to the people having intent to show up to the meetings. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing that you're also facing sometimes that people aren't showing up. How do you monetize or how do you charge for your club at the moment?
So ours is a monthly subscription payment, but that doesn't mean, like, what I kind of find is that, so everyone pays monthly in order to become a member. But I think now that I've done that, I'm kind of think, actually, if you're going to do like events, then like it doesn't necessarily mean because someone pays on the first of the month that their event on the 20th they're going to turn up to. Do you know what I mean? Because there's quite a bit of distance between the two. So like I think because of the bigger vision that I have, because I have other elements that I want to bring into it, it makes sense to do it that way. But if I was just going to do like the one meetup a month, it would maybe make more sense to be like, are you coming tomorrow? Pay your deposit if you are, or, like that kind of thing. So it's very
Yeah.
much like an immediate, like, are you going to? And then it's like an RSPV rather than just like a rolling thing. So yeah, I think there's two ways of doing it. And I think for the kind of meetup element, like to getting that meetup as close to 100% as possible, probably the payment per event makes more sense. But yeah, it depends on the model, I suppose, and how people do things.
How much do you charge for your membership?
So ours is £12.99 a month for that. And then we have other things that also come with that membership, which is quite, I think, pulls into like the community aspect. And so we promote like small businesses. So people within our community, because it's quite an outdoorsy community, we have a lot of people who are like very creative and run like small like businesses, like workshops and creative outlets and things like that, that struggle to get marketing attention. So we promote them within our hub, obviously for free, and they can give like discounts and stuff. So you get access to other things like that as well as part of a membership. And we do events every now and again, stuff like that too, like big organized events. So we have other things as well. But yeah, it's £12.99.
There's 2 clubs that come to mind that do a similar thing to yours: Founder Sports Club and Brio.
Rio,
Are you
I've never
familiar
heard
with
of
them?
them. I know Founder Sports Club because I actually looked at joining them a while ago. And obviously I know Annabelle, who knows you, and that's kind of how we
Yeah.
connected. But obviously they only work in cities. So that was my like big obstacle to overcome, is that I wanted it to work. I lived 5 hours away from a city at the time. So I was like, I need something that's not city based. And so part of like seeing that, like I obviously looked at lots of different things and that was one of them. And I was like, I wish I could join, but it's just not feasible for me. And so trying to make it
Mhm.
work in remote areas was really hard. That was probably one of the biggest challenges to kind of face and overcome with that.
Yeah, because you're limited geographically. People need to be in the same rural area. I know
Yeah.
for Founder Sports Club, they were struggling a little bit with the attendance as well. I know now something that they've
Mhm.
tested is having an opt-in. So, so you have to opt in each month to actually be paired in a group.
Mhm.
And then Brio, which I can totally connect you to the founders because they're also part of our little group, pairs people up, 4 to 6 people for coffee in Paris and in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And they don't charge a subscription. They charge just like a €5 per meetup. And you opt in, like they do it every Sunday. So on a weekly basis, you decide if you want to opt in, you pay €5, like a one-time event. And Lily, who runs Brio, tells me that she has a really high attendance rate.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, we're adding an opt-in onto so the app interface has an opt-in, which I think will really help. So fingers crossed. But yeah, it'd be good to hear from them how they do things as well. It's interesting to see the different ways people approach things. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super cool.
And so I'm guessing one of the big problems or obstacles for you to grow your club is the limitation of needing a critical mass in the same rural area. Is that right?
To an extent. So the way that we group people, so within our application process, we take like a rough location. So we take like a postcode, which people can just update at any time. And within the app, it'll just be like a map kind of feature. So, and then you kind of put in a radius of how far you'd be happy to travel. So for some people, they're like, I only want to travel like 5 miles. Like I want like local friends. And then other people, like me, for example, I'm happy to go pretty far. Like if I'm going to go for a day in the hills, like I'm happy to drive like an hour or two for it. So it really depends on the person, I think. And because it's like the actual meetup that you're set is once a month, it's not too regular. And then obviously groups kind of fork off and meet again after that and do whatever they fancy doing. But like for the initial meetup, for some people, yeah, they're pretty happy to travel far. So once we'd become like big enough where we sort of got people kind of everywhere, like the overlap became enough for it to kind of work. But it's something that I'm conscious of is that we have to have sufficient people joining each month for it to continue to work in that way, because there is that extra like limitation on it, trying to make it work in remote places. Cause like we have people, I was living on a Scottish island whenever I built it, basically. And so I was like, this is going to be really hard here because there's not many people. um,
Yeah, you said getting people in is important. How do you get more people? What does your marketing look like?
it's kind of a lot of things, I guess. I do organic stuff just on the page. I do some paid marketing as well. I've lent into that quite a bit. So I have like a marketing background. So I do like organic, I do paid, I do Facebook groups. I do a lot of in-person marketing. I really enjoy that. So I've basically got like my truck that I drive is like a big white van. So I've just like plastered it like a billboard and just go and like land it in random places. Like I'll just go and park it somewhere that's like a popular tourist spot for a day or something, and then I'll see that people have come through and like seen the van and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I'll do quite a lot of things like that and putting QR codes on trailheads for walks and that kind of thing. So I've done lots of that. And then in the very beginning stages, whenever I was trying to like really get things going like quickly, I did like a massive road trip and just did loads of like free events for anybody. So I just went on a road trip for like 2 and a bit weeks, and just like, screamed from the rooftops basically about what we were doing
Wow.
and got loads of people in. Cause I don't know if you found this, but like, because the groups, you're not physically attending a lot of the groups. So you don't have many like pictures or like marketing materials to use. For me in the beginning, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I can market it as like just me and like maybe my friends or whatever outside, but it becomes a bit samey. Like you do need some proof of concept as well to put on the social media. Like even if the groups are happening, if you don't have much in the way of like pictures and materials, it's quite hard to market. So like that was also a helpful part of doing that road trip in the beginning, was like I got to speak to loads of people and figure out what they actually wanted and what they would enjoy and what they wouldn't want that maybe I thought would be a thing. So it was like really great for market research, for also just like people then spreading the word because they'd been to this event or whatever. But also then getting like marketing stuff from it as well was really good. So yeah, that was a
Did
really
you
a good way to start things.
did you document that journey of you driving for 2.5 weeks, getting the word out?
It's on the social media page. Yeah, we've got different bits and stuff.
Cool.
I didn't like sort of blog it or vlog it or anything like that, but we kind of, it was on stories and like posts and things like that. And I'm in contact with quite a few people from that trip still now. So yeah, I met some amazing people, which was beautiful because I don't know about you, especially in the beginning, like I can imagine both of us at this point in time, you don't make much money off these things like in the beginning, and that's not the point of it. It's not why you create them. But that does make a difficult element because it's not like you can get loads of people to help and support. Like it becomes a real, you are working really hard for something that probably isn't paying the bills. And like that's great because I love it. But at the same time, like you do need things to keep you going sometimes. Like if you just sat behind the laptop without getting the proof yourself and getting like the physical interactions and things like that, it can be quite difficult, especially when you've been doing it for months on end. So
Yeah.
having things like that I think is really important for that personal part of it too.
Yeah, you really hustled in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, hustled hard with it. But it's because I don't know, I personally believe that you have to be sort of like delusionally, like believe delusionally that it's gonna work so well. And like I do have that delusional belief. So like in my head, I'm like, people need to know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I do have that belief and I'm aware that it's slightly delusional, but I think that sometimes you kind of need that, to make it really grow in the beginning.
I think so. I think that's what it takes. It necessitates you kind of going all out and putting yourself out there. And for me as
Yeah.
well, in the beginning, it was very much documenting, as in making content about the first meetup and then how I'm setting up the second meetup. And like, I did a lot of social media content. And I can relate a lot to now where I'm not in the cities that host the meetups and I don't have the content because I'm not there. And I was the one
Yeah.
capturing the content. We actually have our branches. I taught them how to make some little videos so that they
Okay,
can have their
nice.
own Instagrams, home Brussels, home London, and then cross post it to our main Instagram. I'm yet
Nice.
to determine whether it's like effective or not, but at least it's cool that they're capturing some content and having a little bit of a presence.
Yeah, that's really cool, especially that you've got these different hubs going on. Yeah, that's really nice.
But I think, yeah, similarly to you being there in the beginning to capture all the content and I had to physically host a meetup every week because that gave me the content that would grow the club to a certain mass that could allow it to run on its own. And I think that that's probably a
Mhm.
really important part of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
did you get like a lot of feedback from those meets as well? Did that help you like shape how you're doing things?
Yeah, for sure. It was a great experimental phase where us figuring out what do we do in our meetups. Sometimes we did it at home, sometimes we did a picnic, sometimes we did games. And so I could fine tune, okay,
Nice.
like what is it? What is our thing? And I found that we don't have a specific activity that we do each time in our clubs. Each leader kind of does their own meetups. So it could be a coffee, it could be a walk in the park. And I've been battling with this, like, oh, we need to have one specific thing. Like you, it's walks in nature, or someone else, it's sports club. Or maybe it's just the fact that people gather and it's this very niche community of third culture kids that provides its value.
Yeah. I was going to say, because our niche comes from the activity, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Like yours is already a niche in itself. So yeah, that's interesting though.
So, what are your next steps for Grounded Connections? Where do you want this to go?
So our next steps are getting the app out. That has been the thing that's been working on for a long time. And yeah, I think for us, that's the biggest step up. So that we can then optimize in a lot of ways, make the user experience so much sleeker, and so much better for the users. Like, how do you message over WhatsApp or how does your like messaging interface work?
Great question. So, we were on Circle, which we just closed.
Okay.
And the way it works now is each city has their own Luma calendar, which people can
Uh-huh.
subscribe to. And once a month, I send a newsletter with the events. And each city also has their own WhatsApp group. So once you join an event, you get into their little system. So they kind of self manage their own communities, and the wider community gets an email once a month with their communities.
Okay, that makes sense. Because yeah, the messaging is what we've had a big issue with. Because we used to set up the WhatsApp groups and then we kind of got past the boundaries of what you can do on WhatsApp. So we got shut down and it was the most stressful thing ever. Like we hit the limit as people were jumping into groups, and it was just
Oh, wow.
hell on earth. I could just see everyone joining WhatsApp group close and all of that stuff. So that's been big. Yeah, there's been big learning curves, but for us, now being able to migrate it into an integrated messaging, people being able to change their profiles as well, little things like that I've always taken for granted whenever I've been on other apps and things. I'm actually, these things are really complex to do outside of an app interface. At the moment, it's just forms all over the place. We've got it in a website hub. So things are centralized to an extent, but it's all quite janky, and it's it's not the smoothest process in the world, to say the least. But yeah, once it's all centralized, that'll make it much better for users and that kind of thing. So at the moment, it's more about optimizing user experience before we think about scaling. So yeah, that's the main thing for us. And then we've got other things that we're excited about in the future, for sure, which is cool.
How are you building an app?
So I've got app developers working on it. So that's where the steep learning curve has come from, because that has not been the smooth process I anticipated it being.
I
It's
can
been
imagine.
a much longer process than I thought. Yeah.
We know a few tech people who are building tech for communities in our circle. Obviously, it
Okay.
sounds like you passed that stage, but maybe there can be some learnings, or you can inspire the next leader to find the best way to create their own app.
Yeah, encourage people to do more background research before they onboard people. So yeah, that's been an interesting journey in itself. But again, everything you do, you learn from. So there's a lot of things that I wouldn't have known without going down that route. So yeah, it'll all get there. Fingers crossed very soon.
Fingers crossed. Are there any other big picture plans for how you want to grow and monetize the club? Because I've ran my club since March, and it's working, but in my head it's okay, now what? How can we scale our impact and also make money? I was going to say more money, but money first, because we haven't yet. But I'm curious if you have any ideas for your own club.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the subscription model works. We're pretty happy with running just on a monthly subscription. I think that works quite well, and that'll allow us to scale and be able to bring new things in. So that's kind of monetizing wise, we're kind of there. My aim isn't really to the reason behind making it wasn't really for the monetary gain. Obviously, it needs to sustain itself in order for it to grow and flourish and all those things. But I think for us, the future versions that we have in mind will obviously develop based on what the community wants and needs. But I kind of picture having two different aspects of the kind of club. So having the connections side, which is the monthly groupings, but then also having another side that is more different people can kind of plan events together. So it's more like a planning interface, and the other one's getting matched with your kind of people interface, a done for you, and plan it yourself, depending on the different types of people. Because I do find that some people love, and I've got this from going to the events and meeting people, is some people really love that way of doing things, of just being connected with people. They're happy to go off and plan it. And then other people kind of prefer that, okay, I'll hop on an event that's either I've organized or someone else has organized, and I can kind of just join. So there's I think there's different ways, and I think different things will suit different settings as well. So yeah, we're going to have that kind of two different branches of it, which is exciting. But then I think from there, it'll sort of be shaped by what the community wants and needs as well, which is exciting. But then scaling beyond the UK and Ireland, which is what we're doing at the moment, we're just in the UK and Ireland, is a whole nother step. That is the problems again, like you were saying, is you've got to have enough people, and the UK is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. So launching here was maybe not as big of a thing, but then launching abroad, we take applications for people from abroad. So we've had applications from all sorts of countries, but amping that up for a much bigger country is going to be interesting. So I think we're going to have to be a lot more strategic about we'll launch in this specific area of Spain or something first, I don't know, and see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think strategy is going to become a little bit more important at that point.
I think it's smart that you're collecting data and people from different places. That's something that's helped my community open in different cities. Is as I was building Paris, I had a place for people outside of Paris to subscribe to our newsletter, and they could get updates on the journey. So there was value given to them that then grew our database so that we knew, oh, okay, we have 10 people in London, and if we set up something there, we already have a little base.
Yeah, because then you know where the demand is, so it makes sense to follow it then. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what we'll have to start thinking about relatively soon, which is exciting.
Yeah. Oh, congrats on building your community so far and impacting the hundreds of people who have met up and found meaningful connections.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. I'm excited to see how yours grows as well and what you do with it in the future. Like, especially now you're at quite a few crossroads by the sounds of it, of like expanding different areas, figuring out ways to make it sustainable, how it works with leaders. Like, it sounds like a lot of exciting, maybe stressful decisions at the moment, but it's cool
That's why I came to Bali for 2 months. I'm in
to
Bali
try and
right now.
de-stress a little bit.
Yeah, just take a step back.
Yeah,
Take a
it's
step back.
intense.
No,
I think it's easy to underestimate how much work something like this takes. I think. I don't know if you found that, but I really didn't think it would be as intense as it can be.
you know what? I was reflecting on why it feels that intense. And I think it's because I'm exposed to people. Like I'm exposed to a lot of people, meaning I have been a content creator where I had millions of followers, but it didn't feel like I was in contact with anyone but myself and the camera. So it felt much easier in that sense. Whereas now, just managing an event of 30 people, forget about millions of people, but just 30 people, it's like, it feels like there's a lot of energy that's required and a lot of
Mhm.
energies to deal with as well. And it's part of it, yet it's something that I want to figure out for myself the best way to navigate. And that's, running a meetup in one city is fine on its own, but then doing it in different cities and then trying to grow and then also like focusing on the content, which is the thing that only I can really do. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And do you have anyone who, obviously you're not monetizing right now, so do you have people who are like helping with that? Obviously you have your leaders, but do you like employ anyone at the moment?
No. So the only people who have some sort of role are the leaders. My plan moving forward is I envision that to be very self sustained, like the leaders kind of manage on their own rather than reporting to me or me having to like check that everything's going well, which shifts the mindset a little bit because currently they're home branches. So they're branded as our club. And one train
Mhm.
of thought is actually, if they're branded as our club, there means that there's some accountability. And if something goes wrong, it can reflect badly on the whole brand. So it means that, oh, I probably need to do some quality control. One train of thought is to be like, remove the home branding. Just you guys are doing your own thing, obviously within our community, and we can help you spread the word. But for now, I'm not thinking too much about that. So having the leaders in the cities kind of self-manage, I think is going to be key. Monetizing through perhaps some sort of subscription to a paid newsletter, for example, something that can provide value, but the work doesn't increase as more people join. That's going to be
Mhm.
really key. So I could have, if I do a paid newsletter once a month, whether it's 100 people or 10,000 people, it's the same amount of work. And for me, really focusing on content is going to be huge. And I think that's the marketing and the thing that only I can really do. And then TCK Fest. That's another big project that I'd like to do next year. An annual
Okay.
3-day
Nice.
festival for third culture kids around the world to come together. I think that would be it's going to be it's a big thing. So I think it's going to be
That
really
sounds like
good
a
for
lot of
marketing.
work,
And
but that would be amazing.
yes, it will be probably the thing that is the most work. And it's going to only happen under the conditions that it's the most simple version possible, especially for
Okay.
the first one. So that's something that I'll start to announce next year. But yeah, I, it probably won't be too much work if you think of it more as like a meetup just over 3 days and
I love that you're going
all
straight in
day.
with 3 days, not like one big day. You're just like, no, let's do the full weekend.
Yeah. No, it's going to be probably 3 days. And that one, I'm going to need more support. I'm going to need like a partner to like help run that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like out of interest, what was it that you wanted to get out of starting the club in the first place? Like obviously I had a little stalk beforehand, so like it makes sense with your background and it sounds like you've moved around a lot and stuff like that. But like was your aim to be able to bounce through different clubs when you're in different cities, like if you travel a lot now, or was it like to have people around you when you're wherever you're living right now?
The reason I started the club I say is for selfish reasons. It's for fulfillment. I wanted to do something that helped others because I knew it would fulfill me. And that was kind of what was missing in my life. And it needed to be for a cause that I felt passionate about. So third culture kids, as myself, growing up in different countries, parents from different countries, is something that I really connected to. So I didn't have too big of a vision of how it would turn out, but I knew that just bringing TCKs together would add value to their lives and feel meaningful for myself. And then my entrepreneurial mind, after a month of it working, was like, okay, now we've got to expand, and I want
Yeah.
to take over the
And it
world
all
and
blows up and goes wild. Love that.
spread it to third cultures all over the world. That's the motivation? Is yeah, it's the fulfillment of helping others, and at the same time, like I want this to work for me too, and I want to make money from it, and I know it will make money if it helps others. So I see it in a win-win situation in that sense. And I know that if we make more money, we can have more impact. So I'm adopting a really like open-minded approach to monetizing it, which at first I think I was a little scared to do, of like bringing up the topic of money and like a community,
Wow.
because I think there's this stigma sometimes of, oh, if you try and monetize, it means bad intentions or whatever. So I think people have been like, have been, yeah, they've been accepting of me discussing this in my newsletter of how I want to grow it and monetize it. And they're curious to figure out how I'm going to do that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think it is a difficult one. Like I definitely get and you always will, like I'm sure from you having content creation background, like you're always going to get people who make comments no matter what you do. And that's a difficult part. Like the first message that I had about someone saying, I can't believe you're monetizing this. It's meant to be community, hit me so hard. And like, I remember going on a walk. I was on this walk for like an hour and a half, and it was just like going around in my brain the whole time. And I was just like, am I a terrible person? Like, am I using people? Am I preying on people who want friendships? And I was like, but I would 100% pay for this service because I wanted to pay for this service. I just couldn't find it. And like, I do think that's a really hard hurdle to get past because obviously I still get that now from people, but like that if you don't monetize it, there's no way it can continue. Like, there's no way you can work however many, hours and the systems that you have to use and all of those things without it. But it's a tough hurdle to get past. And I think people do need to be like, whenever they start up a club like this, they do need to kind of be prepared to like have to like be really tough on that side of it and like kind of try and block out the noise because it's gonna happen no matter what, and it's not nice.
No, I can imagine. I I've also been really sensitive to comments about my club as well in the beginning days too. It wasn't about money because we
Yeah.
didn't have that yet, but it was just even about other things that like really get to me. We feel really personally attached to it, of course,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it is inevitable that there will be a conflict or a comment. So being
Yeah.
aware of that beforehand, I think is important.
Yeah, I think it is really important, and sometimes it can impact what you're doing as well. I think like maybe not necessarily in a like criticism standpoint, but like there are certain things that I've decided not to put into the community. And I think if you listen to like every bit of criticism that you had, your club would almost become the same as every other club. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's some things that you kind of have to know what you actually want it to stand for, like the ethos of it, and like hold strong to that as well, because that's why people come to you. So like that, this is definitely a piece of advice that I would give anyone or give myself, like looking back, because I did try and bend to like what the feedback was that I was getting. And obviously some feedback you want to take on board and you want to like incorporate. But I think knowing that you can't please everyone and there's always going to be people who it's not a right fit for. And I kind of think that's a good thing. If you have people who aren't a good fit, that's probably because you're doing something a little bit different. And like, it took me a while to accept, like, there's loads of places, obviously, that do like outdoorsy events and like have like these big local events. And then I tried to do a couple and they kind of didn't really work. But I don't have like a strong localized, base of people. Like, people are scattered everywhere. And that's the positive of what I have. But it also comes with the negative of like, if I try and do a meetup in this place, I'm not going to get hundreds of people applying to it. Like, it could flop. And like, I think it took me a couple of events like that to realize like that's just not your thing. Like people do that better than you, and that's okay. Like you don't have to be the best at doing like all of these different things. Like it's all right for you to have your thing that you're good at and leave the stuff to the other people. And it's also okay to say to people, look, I don't think we're the right place for you, but there's that place that's really good. That's probably better. That took a long time for me to accept and not feel like you're failing in this aspect. But I do think now, like, I hold strong to that now. And I make a real effort to be a bit more outward with like, we don't have a big community forum. We don't have a huge community chat. Like that doesn't exist. And that's because I don't like them. And I know a lot of people who don't like them. And therefore we're not going to have one, but other places do. So you can absolutely go there. And yeah, I think that's tough sometimes to stand with.
This is along the lines of like kicking out your first members is like a landmark moment of deciding who your club is for, and a tough one. I've had to deal with that with removing members, and I think it's so important to follow through with it because it sets the tone for who the club is for and how your members react to and respect the club's commitment to its values. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. I think it is because you say there's so much emotional investment in it. So it makes everything that bit harder because like you care so much. It's not this impersonal mission.